Okay, my clock is saying noon, so we will get started. Hello, everyone. Welcome. I'm Ricky Bevington, President of the World Affairs Council of Atlanta. Thank you so much for joining me in my conversation with Ambassador Harry K. Thomas Jr. We have some special welcomes in addition to our public audience here today. Special welcome to Dr. Brian Blake, President of Georgia State University and a member of the World Affairs Council of Atlanta's Board of Directors. Our board chair, Bernard Taylor, retired partner at law firm Alston and Bird, and board member Allison Padilla Goodman, who is Vice President of the Anti-Defamation League Southern Division. Also, Nico Winberg, Chief of Protocol for the state of Georgia. Thank you all for being here. And as others join us, that's fine. We're just going to continue and stay on track because we have a lot of conversation to have with Ambassador Thomas. His extensive and influential career at the U.S. Department of State has been focused on diversifying America's representation in the Foreign Service. Applauded as one of the most experienced diplomats, Ambassador Thomas was ambassador to Zimbabwe, the Philippines, and Bangladesh, and held postings in India, Nigeria, and Peru. In one of his most notable postings, he led the Zimbabwe embassy during a tumultuous coup that resulted in the resignation of Robert Mugabe. Ambassador Thomas also served as Director General of the Foreign Service and Director of Human Resources of the Department of State. So he's not just an ambassador, he has been part of the hiring and retention decisions that are made at the very highest levels of our federal government. Ambassador Thomas is here to discuss recruitment and his efforts to diversify the Foreign Service, as well, of course, as his broad experiences as a diplomat in fascinating regions of the world. And we'll hope that you'll share some of your adventures as well. Ambassador Thomas, thank you for joining us.
Good afternoon, Ricky. Congratulations on your new posting as President of the World Affairs Council of Atlanta. And I'm very much looking forward to this opportunity.
As are we. I'm going to give you an opportunity to share with our audience just a broad brush of your fascinating career and all that you've enjoyed about it. Now that you're in retirement, you're still working. But first, I want to start with a big question that I think we're all here to explore today is, how do you define diversity as it relates to the State Department?
Thank you, because I think diversity, like affirmative action before, you could define it in any manner you want. But for me, diversity, equity, and inclusion means treating everybody the same, giving everybody the same opportunity, whether you're geographically diverse, racially diverse, gender, whatever that makes up the mosaic of our wonderful country. And that's what we want people to understand. Treat everybody equally. Give everybody an opportunity and make sure you put them in a place to succeed. So that's why you not only have to recruit, you have to retain and promote. The best American companies, Coca-Cola, Marriott, are the top ones for diversity, equity, and inclusion, and they make more money. They found that out. In foreign policy, I think we will be much more effective when we have that. And I've been saddened to see the numbers of minority officers and even women stagnate and go down in the last several years. We need to change that if we're going to meet the challenges of the future.
You know, I think it's really well said to say that we often talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion in the private sector realm. And we're hearing really strong business cases for having more women on boards, having people of color at all levels of management, even companies that are devoting departments to workers who are on the autism spectrum. There's really a real awareness of the business case. So drill down on that for a minute with me because of your decades in foreign service. What is the business case for diversity in the State Department?
Thank you. Success in foreign policy. The State Department not only does foreign policy, we help American businesses. We help American nonprofits. We work with other agencies in the U.S. government, and we're always focusing on democracy, human rights, equal opportunity, lack of human trafficking, and these days, climate change. And when you're speaking that, and you're telling other countries to do better, but you're not practicing that, you have low chance of being effective, especially in a modern social media world when everybody can see who your leadership is. And frankly, we should reflect the best. We are a nation of immigrants, no matter how you got here, no matter how your foreparents got here, and we give opportunity to everyone. We've got to make sure that we follow through on that. Uh, and that is, I have seen everybody given the opportunity. You know, Ricky, when I joined the Foreign Service, very few women were in leadership positions. Most Jewish Foreign Service officers had to serve in Africa. They weren't allowed to serve in Europe. Women, if they were over 6 feet, had to resign. If they were married, they had to resign. This this was madness. There were no South Asians, very few East Asians, about 300 Latinos and African Americans. Today it's maybe 400. And definitely our gay colleagues had to be in the closet, not being able to live their life. And clearly, in terms of sexual orientation, we are now a leader in the world. And we need to show people in other nations that, uh, trust me, just speaking correctly, having the people uh, who look differently talk about their success in America gives hope to others. I know this because so many people have told me this during my career.
And I do intend for us to get to some of the positives of what's happening. We're not just going to dwell on the low numbers, for example. So, and another to preview for the rest of this conversation, I'm actually going to have Ambassador Thomas talk to us a little bit later about Spelman College's incredible role in sending women into the Foreign Service dating back to the 60s. This is absolutely fascinating to me. We will be talking about that. Let's take a moment to pull up a photo that you provided to us that we can share with our audience. And this photo really helps tell the story that you've been talking to us about today, about how representation matters, but also why having different perspectives at the highest levels of decision-making in public policy influences everyday lives. So who are we looking at?
We are looking at Appleday App, a member of the famous music group, the Black Eyed Peas. He was born in the Philippines outside of Clark Air Force Base to an African American whom he never met, has never met to this day, and a Filipino. He was fortunate to get a Pearl S. Buck scholarship to come to America for a summer. Family decided to adopt him. He met Will I Am in high school, and the rest is history. However, under U.S. law, your father is only your father if he claims you. Anywhere, if you're adopted, your mother is no longer your mother, and your siblings are not your siblings. So our law allows for people to immigrate to this country who are relatives, as Mrs. Trump did, as Colin Powell's family did, as Madeleine Albright's family did. But Appleday App's family cannot, because his mother is not considered his mother. It was something done to prevent fraud. Trust me, when he was 15 years old, she did not know he was going to become Appleday App. And so one of the challenges we have in our foreign policy is to ensure that everybody's treated equally, and to it's a shame that DNA tests can't be done without permission of the father, because we have babies, mothers with babies lined up in front of our embassy every day. But Appleday App still gives back to children in California and in the Philippines in terms of music education, music scholarships, and there he was appearing at our embassy Christmas party. So he is very proud of being an American, very proud of being a Filipino, but he wishes our laws were a little different for children who will not be as lucky as he is, which is most of them.
You were in charge of the Director General of the Foreign Service and Director for Human Resources of the Department of State. And I said I was going to give you an opportunity to talk about the scope of your career. So why don't you give us a brief overview? And then I wanted to ask you about your time in those leadership positions and what policies and practices you put in place in service of diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Yes, I am very high on Americans joining the Foreign Service, USAID, or the State Department. And the reason is I'm an example. When I joined the Foreign Service, when I took our exam, I had never been overseas. I didn't speak a foreign language. The great man that I worked for, Edward J. Logue, who's a builder and attorney, told me about it. I went to the library and I said, oh, they look really stuck up. I want to join USAID to help the poor or the CIA because, James Bond, fast cars. They both rejected me. So I had to take the Foreign Service exam. And I passed in two parts. I was able to become a political officer, which is very important to me. And because political officers have, in whether it's fair or not, the best chance to succeed in the Foreign Service. So Foreign Service has taught me the languages, Hindi, Bengali, Tagalog, Spanish, given me opportunities that I would never had. So today's young people do junior year abroad or a semester abroad. They've traveled. They take languages in high school and elementary school, full immersion. So if I could do that, coming from Harlem, I know that they can. They just have to learn about it. And even if they choose not to join the diplomatic corps, international business is important. International non-government organizations, think tanks, all of these things, and it will bring them a better understanding. They will be more diverse in their own manner because they'll have respect and understanding for other cultures and help themselves succeed, and not only themselves, our nation.
Well, absolutely. I mean, it's really, we are stronger as an economy, as a workforce. I mean, it's global engagement is a workforce training activity in my perspective. But obviously I'm the president of the World Affairs Council of Atlanta. I'm slightly biased. So while you were in charge of recruitment and retention, what specific things did you do to try to do what you just described?
Well, we wanted to diversify in many ways. As you know, the Foreign Service is very Ivy League, Little Ivy, in Georgetown. And if you're from Mississippi, you went to Yale or Columbia. So we put in a program of summer internships where we paid students $500 a week from colleges that were underserved, in the sense that they had few people or zero in the Foreign Service. So we went to Ohio Wesleyan. We went to the University of Nebraska. We went to Hiram College. We went to Wiley College, Langston. We met with the presidents, the staffs. Some of the students didn't have money to travel to D.C., but we organized events where the alums raised money. And Secretary Rice even held one for Winston-Salem State at the State Department with the great Dr. Ralph Bunche, Nobel Peace Prize's daughter, there to honor him. So we put that in, and that's why I'm talking about there are many types of diversity. One, we changed the Foreign Service exam. The exam that I took was very much SAT based. So if you scored well on the SAT, you'd score well on the first part. And the second part, which we still have in place, was an oral exam. What we put in was an essay because we wanted to, it's very important to see how well you write in the Foreign Service. We would edit Mark Twain, but we wanted to give you the opportunity to tell us about your experiences. Because we've had friends like my friend Mark Grossman, Ambassador Mark Grossman, who was the Undersecretary for Political Affairs, who said he learned more about how to deal with people being a day-to-day, a spray pan butter salesman, getting no every
Yeah.
day. And so many people that we deal with who go to elite colleges have never been told no. We know they're studying more these days, studying less, getting higher grades. They freak out when they're told no. Uh, a person, so we've had a person who drove the Oscar Mayer Wiener truck in the summer, somebody who was P. Diddy's student, intern, those type of things. We had Grammy nominees and an American Idol finalist. So, yes, from Oklahoma State. So that brings that out. Now, you still have to be able to write. You still have to be able to communicate. That's very important. But those experiences mean that when you get thrown into Ukraine or Belarus, you're not going to panic when things go south. So those are some of the things we did.
Today, do you know that if that program is still in place, or maybe any programs that have been added to enhance
Well,
the State Department's recruitment and retention?
unfortunately, the internship program did not sustain, but the exam is in place. And the other thing, we have a scholarship program, the Wrangell and Pickering program, which many people from Spelman and Morehouse have taken advantage of. It was put in place to diversify the Foreign Service. But when we had it, it was running out of money. And Ambassador Ruth Davis, Ambassador Aurelia Brazil, both graduates of Spelman, came to me one morning outside my office right next to Dr. Rice and said, "We need you to go ask her for $1 million." So like, really? But I was a lot more afraid of them than I was of Dr. Rice. Truth be told, they're formidable. So I went in and small meeting, 5 or 6 of us, and I asked Dr. Rice for that, and she said, "You got it," just like that. To their credit, Secretary Pompeo and Deputy Secretary Began in 2020 doubled that program. So we will have many more scholars. And today it is seriously diverse in terms of East Asians, South Asians, very much a challenge with Native Americans as it is in all parts, more women, but it's economics. So your family, it's based on your family income. So you can be from North Dakota, Minnesota, all these places getting these scholarships. And that was important. So again, economic diversity is what this program is about, and it's still going on. We're very happy. So we'd like to see more people from all over, especially Georgia State, Georgia Southern, come to apply and be successful.
You know, that story kind of gave me chills, because it really is an example of why having different perspectives in senior leadership matters. When 2 women from Spelman say, "We need to do something about this, we need to throw our weight around a little bit," and you ask Dr. Rice for $1 million, and just the world changes for the lives of the recipients. Mm-hmm. Of those. It's just extraordinary, and the domino effect is immeasurable. You know, I want to get to the Spelman, because you told me an amazing story about how starting in the 60s, Spelman has had this incredible role. But I want to actually ask you about misconceptions. What misconceptions do people have about the Foreign Service, especially for the young people who are watching right now? What do you want people to know?
Well, they think the State Department is the state of Georgia department. We haven't done a good enough job explaining to people what we do. And they think Foreign Service, what is this? So our name, and that hasn't bothered people for years because they wanted to make a boys club, a private boys club. But what we do, we exist to protect Americans overseas. That is our number one job, and we take it very seriously to keep Americans safe and to help Americans in times of need. But also, we help Boeing sell Boeing. We help Coca-Cola sell Cokes. Making sure that government policies are equal and fair. President Bush greatest achievement is the President's Emergency Program for AIDS Relief, which he started because Secretary Powell took that to him. And that has saved millions of lives in Africa. It has also now in Asia, saving millions of lives. Great program that we do. But not everything is large. And when I was in the Philippines, Gloria Steele, who is now the #2 at CARE in Atlanta, was our USAID chief, and she came to me and said, 4,000 Filipino women are dying each year from postpartum bleeding. They don't have the dollar it takes for a shot. Their families have to prioritize money. So we worked with an American pharmaceutical company, came up with a shot that does not have to be refrigerated, and we saved those lives. It's thanks to Gloria and her vision, and I think that's the thing I'm most proud of in my career. But it was Gloria's vision, and she is a Filipina American who immigrated to the United States after going to Kansas State, and she understood that perspective, and having her in that position was immense and instrumental.
So we do have young people, Georgia State University students, hopefully on. In fact, I'm seeing Peyton Prokes writes in the chat, Go State, graduated in fall 2021. And also, Ambassador, you're getting some love in the chat. You can take a look. We'll send you the comments after this. Okay. I will invite our audience to submit your questions for Ambassador Thomas. Please use the Q&A function. This actually helps me distinguish, and I can read them a lot easier when they're in the Q&A function. Thank you so much. We've got our intern Kanko Zanu saying Go State as well. So we have some young people who are very excited about everything you're describing. I mean, we're making America safer, as you just said. That's the role of the State Department, Safer Abroad. But Spelman is a model that we can look at, that there's been great success since the 60s. How did that start, and what does that look like today?
Like any successful enterprise, you have to have people recruit. And people went to Morehouse and Spelman to recruit. The Ford Foundation started a program in the 60s to diversify the Foreign Service. And the Spelman graduates were brought to Howard University for a summer to learn about the State Department, to get into the State Department. And once you saw their success, then other young women wanted to come into it. We established a diplomat in residence program at Morehouse Spelman to recruit, and it has been wildly successful. While I didn't, my father is a graduate of Morris Brown. Okay. While I did not attend HBCU, I would say that the Morehouse and Spelman's alum and students were equal to the ones I had at Columbia, where I went, or Holy Cross, my undergraduate alma mater, or Yale, where I am now. And I will say, I'm sure the Georgia State students are also. They just have to be told about it, encouraged, given those opportunities. And Ambassador Davis was Director General of the Foreign Service. Aurelia was the first minority woman to be an ambassador in Asia, and then in Kenya. Today, Dana Banks, who's much younger, is working in the White House on foreign and national security staff, foreign policy. So Spelman, the sisterhood as we call it, is still continuing to be strong, but so is Morehouse. Where we have a lot of young people. Daniel Delk is our Deputy Consul General in Shanghai. He's fluent in Mandarin. And he's a native of Atlanta. So you have these programs that work, but the best thing, and this was an old program, is go there, meet young folks, not just in college, in high school, middle school, tell them about the opportunities, and they will come.
So much is just about people knowing about it. And that's, even in the social media age, a young person can go through an entire, career exploration process in high school and college and maybe never be exposed to this kind of career. That's remarkable.
Yes, so many. And that's because we're losing you lose. Even if you're a fan of Ayn Rand, you know she wanted the best. That was what she was always talking about. Don't waste talent.
Mm.
And if we don't give some kid from Kenosha, Wisconsin, or Milwaukee, or Juneau, Alaska, the opportunity, maybe we're missing the next Colin Powell, or Henry Kissinger, or Madeleine Albright. So that's what we would like.
Ambassador, I'm going to read you some of these chats and then we're going to get to questions. We've got Khalif Robinson, U.S. diplomat and GSU alumni, class of 2017. Cameron Thomas Shaw, Morehouse College of 11, U.S. diplomat. And Tristan, I can't see your full last name, Rodenhauser, GSU study abroad and Gilman sponsorship awardee. And Usan Hitchcock, recruit at Agnes College, one of the most diverse and something colleges in the country. So we are getting a lot of love for you and a lot of shout outs for Georgia State and other schools around Atlanta. So thank you so much. And so we are going to get to audience questions. Thanks for everybody who's engaged. Before we do, I want to, first of all, encourage you to use the Q&A function for your questions for Ambassador Thomas. Also, we are right after this event, we're going to invite you to learn more about joining our community of members here at the World Affairs Council of Atlanta. We would love to see you because, like you, we are very eager to get back to in-person events. And as a member of this council, you get special invitations. You can have private one-on-ones with folks like Ambassador Harry Thomas, and it's a great time as well. We have socials, we have volunteer projects, especially for you under 35s. We have a young leaders program that it's just fantastic. So we have, hopefully we'll have a membership level that's right for you, or maybe your company wants to come on in with a corporate sponsorship. So right after this, we're going to put a Zoom link in the chat, and you can join us for a private Zoom room to talk to our membership associate, Anna Petrova, about membership. So stick around. And here, let's get to the Q&A function here. And a couple of questions that have, wrong button. Okay, Q&A. I'm not trying to dip out. We've got Cicely McLeod Elgert, who says, what is the status of the City and State Diplomacy Act, or the likelihood it will be signed into law? She says, if ultimately signed into law, how will this act impact diversity at the State Department? And Cicely is a senior legal counsel and PhD student investigating the history of Southern subnational diplomacy. So I'll let you answer that.
I cannot. All I can say is I'm going to first, please permit me to say hello to Cameron and Khalif, because I think they will one day be ambassadors. I'm so proud of these young people. I unfortunately do not know anything about this act, so I'm not in a position to answer.
Well, you're giving us an idea for maybe another public event. So Cicely, put a pin in that. Maybe we'll find an expert who we can invite to the council. And if we do it in person, you can meet that expert in person. We have Kaku Zanu, who says, what advice would you offer to young undergraduate students who one day want to go into diplomacy? And Kako, I know she is looking at this career track. She is one of our Georgia State undergraduate interns. So this question is personal to all of us because we want the best for Kanko after her time at Georgia State. So what advice would you offer?
Learn to communicate, to speak clearly, to draft well and quickly, study foreign languages, and most important for young people, listen. Take time to really listen to what your interlocutor is saying, especially if you're dealing with someone from overseas. They're not going to understand our acronyms, our slang, and our way that we have to have a solution tomorrow. So be patient, but clearly the most important thing is communication.
Thank you. Peyton Prokes asks, is there an active effort to hire underrepresented groups within the U.S. State Department, i.e. a specific program, special hiring events, et cetera?
Yes, we have career days. I'm sure they're in places in Atlanta. I'm sure that the diplomat in residence who's at Morehouse Spelman would be, you could go there on Facebook, you can go on Instagram and see their schedule. But in most major cities throughout America, we have this, and now they're increasing the number of diplomats in residence. so we can bring more of these career fair opportunities. But go on www.careers.state.gov. You can look under students, click on keep me informed, and you'll get updates.
Well, I will just share with the audience here. I actually have a call coming up with the interim diplomat in residence of Morehouse and Spelman coming up in the next week. So I was hoping to explore some programming opportunities. So stay tuned, maybe sign up for our newsletter so that we can keep you updated if we end up doing an event with them. We have a question from Maggie Malloy, who says the FSOT has gone through many changes over the years, but standardized tests still have bias. Do you think the FSOT will ever go away? And I'm assuming this is the standardized test for foreign service?
This is the exam. Well, look, we know that standardized tests for college are excellent predictor of your freshman grades. It's not a predictor whether you'll graduate with honors. One great thing about the foreign service exam is it doesn't allow for interference from politicians, politically appointed. You cannot interfere. It's just an exam. And trust me, folks in Washington would interfere. And they wouldn't be telling us to hire kids from Georgia State if we did not have the exam. The exam, any standardized exam, if you're going to eliminate it or change it, what you have to understand is we have to improve the schools in America. This may not be what you want to hear, but education opportunities, math, science, STEM, as well as English, is what doesn't mean you have lower intelligence, but you're going to score lower on these exams. Father's income, zip code, is the greatest predictor of how well you will do on the exam. But my brother-in-law, Jeff Canada, runs charter schools in Harlem, the Harlem Children's Zone, and his test scores are the highest in New York State from Harlem. So you can do things like that. But the Wrangell and Pickering program is one where you do not today have to take the exam, the written exam. In the past, you did have to take the written exam. Now you only have to take the oral. I do not mind people having to take the written exam, especially since we're going to give them several times. What happens is people say, hey, you came in through this special program. I didn't take the exam. I took the exam. They think I'm better. They should look at it as our ROTC program. But even in the military, West Pointers look down on ROTC and Officers Candidate School. So you're never going to escape some type of subjective analysis. We no longer we, but the State Department the reason they employ industrial psychologists, because for years our exam was the only standardized exam where in the English part women scored lower than men. So clearly there was a bias. Clearly there was a bias in that, and I hope that has been fixed now. I assume it has, since we're almost not quite 50% of women passing. But that's something people have to understand. If colleges and graduate schools went on SATs and GPA, we'd have 80 to 85% wouldn't be women. We know that.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, we're seeing, I mean, I don't know if anybody's really finally cracked the standardized test code, but there are incredible advances being made. Pivoting now from recruitment to retention, Ambassador Thomas, we have a question from Charles Shapiro, who asks, why is retention of women and minorities such a challenge for the Foreign Service? Have the challenges of retention changed since you were Director General?
Hello to my good friend, Ambassador Shapiro. Thank you for this. I think this is a myth. In fact, I know. Now, up until I retired in 2018, the Foreign Service, after the State Department, after the Department of Justice, had the lowest attrition rate in the U.S. government. But if you take the Department of Justice attorneys out and the Foreign Service, if you take the civil servants out and just focus on the Foreign Service, we had the lowest attrition rate for 20 at least 20 years. And I don't know what it is the last 3 years, so I cannot say.
And that's retention across everybody.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. Now, what people say is the Pickering and Wrangles leave at a higher rate than other people in the Foreign Service. And we've gone through this. So you have a 3% attrition rate, people who were not Pickerings and Wrangles, and it was 5 to 6% among Pickerings and Wrangles. And in 2000, I want to say 20, it was equal. You're going to have some people who are young and they decide our career is not for them. You have a challenge you didn't have when Charles and I joined. Spouses want to work. They want meaningful jobs. That will lead to other jobs. And also, corporate America offers a much higher salary to someone with this experience. So we do lose them, but it's the percentage will be higher because you're talking about Wrangles and Pickering. That's maybe 300 people in the Foreign Service. Then you have another 15,000. So if 10 of those leave, you're going to have a much higher
percentage, right? Of course. So on the topic of families, which is so important to everybody, Cicely McLeod-Elgert, who I'm going to allow her to double dip here on the questions here because it's relevant to what you just said. She says, at one point there was a stigma that foreign service was for people without families. What, if anything, has been done by the State Department to encourage or support agents' employees with families?
Well, it wasn't without families. It was basically reflected America in corporate America. It was a job for males. Look, I'm not being in politics. Men either were married early in America or they went overseas and they quickly got married. Much more difficult for women for all kinds of societal reasons, finding a man who wanted to follow them and all of these things. What has been done in recent years, it's not perfect, but there are many more jobs within embassies for spouses. Now, will these be jobs that some spouses can take advantage of in their future career? Yes, for some, for many, no. Because you have to have clearances and exams, and they will not. But we've expanded the jobs in our visa sections and our political and economic sections. Those are jobs as junior officers that Charles and I used to do, that they now open for spouses. And in some countries, very few, one including Zimbabwe, spouses are allowed to work by treaty. And that's one thing we need to encourage, to work with Congress to ensure that spouses are given the opportunity to work on the economy in countries, and we can do that on a reciprocal basis for other countries. And I think that would give much more of a chance. We also, now we have gay spouses, which you never would have had before, but the chance for employment. I think perhaps, and I'm not sure, but I would hope one of the benefits now that we're in a post-COVID world is that spouses can work, telework from wherever they are. And that might give more opportunity. I'm not sure that's going on, let me be clear, but I would hope that is something, because it doesn't matter if you're teleworking from Brooklyn or Brussels.
Well, we can only hope. And of course, after the pandemic, we'll be getting all sorts of fresh data on its impact on every industry. We have a question from Derek Olson, who's actually president of World Oregon. Welcome to another World Affairs Council member. Derek asks, what are your thoughts on the continuing confirmation delays for many ambassadors due to politics in the Senate?
Hello, Derek. We have not seen each other in years, but it's great to hear that you're still involved in foreign policy from the private sector. This is something that traditionally goes on. Jesse Helms used to take delight in holding up nominees when he was a senator from North Carolina. Senator Ted Cruz is doing a lot of this now. We hope the administration is pushing. You can't push people publicly. Um, I think Senator Cruz did allow some nominees to go through earlier, but it showed that you can get your way if you hold up things, which is unfortunate. And these are not people they're being held up as pawns.
Mhm.
So I think we need to explain to the American people how important it is to have an ambassador in place. Countries, if you don't have an ambassador in place, they say you do not take us seriously. Doesn't mean that the charge d'affaires, who is acting in the ambassador's place, is not competent, not well, but they say, you're not serious about us. You're not sending us the president's representative. Other presidents will not meet with chargés in some countries. So it shows that we're serious. We respect them because, trust me, China, Russia, they're sending ambassadors. Cuba, Iran, they're sending them. We're not. It says, we don't think you're important.
We have a question from Khalid Hassan, who says, Ambassador, you work with many countries and helped save many lives of the poor. The question is, global power is changing, and many of these countries hardly care about human rights.
Yeah.
This is a big challenge to humanity. What are your thoughts?
Well, thanks for that question. I think that was something that always had. Look, the reason we have a human rights program is because of President Jimmy Carter.
Mhm.
He brought human rights to the fore in the United States. And what you saw in 2020 when we had the Black Lives Matter marches after the deaths of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor. You saw people in the Philippines, in Japan, in Belgium, all protesting, not just in support of human rights in America, but in their nations. In their nations. The fact that we fight human trafficking is something, it took 40 years. Labor and sexual trafficking, you see other countries starting to do this because we try to hold them to account for it. But will dictators are most interested in retaining power and accumulating wealth. So some people you cannot work with, but others we are a beacon of hope. And that's why we always have to have our act together at home. It is unfortunate to see people's lives destroyed as I did in Zimbabwe, when they stood up for human rights. People killed by Mugabe's thugs when they stood up for human rights. And there's no pension for their family. There's no safety net. They suffered tremendously. So when somebody tells me that people in the third world don't want democracy, they're lying, or they're being paternalistic. They may not want our type of democracy, but they want the right to choose their type of democracy. And our programs may not always be effective, but we have to be steady at it, and we have to be a leader, because that's the only way other countries will come in. If the United States is not leading in human rights, other countries they'll give it a pass. It's not nearly as important to them.
Well, Ambassador Thomas, we do have a guest from Zimbabwe. Judith would like to know what advice you would give to African leaders in general based on your experience that you just talked about.
I think that one thing, Judith, it's great to hear from you. I don't know you, but God bless you. I think one thing that's starting is excellent is the Africa Free Trade Agreement. The president of Rwanda is the catalyst behind that. Bringing down economic and trade barriers on the continent will help. Weak governance and corruption is a massive problem. Not only does it lead to the poor being subjected, but it means corporations, international corporations, will not invest. Judith, I'm sure you know of Jumia, Jumia. It is the Amazon of Africa, listed on the New York Stock Exchange. But they're only in 11 countries because they need markets, and they need to deal with countries that are not corrupt. So if these leaders want to improve the plight of their nations, then Some do, some do not. They will become more business friendly. You're not going to get wealthy off of aid, as important as it is. But trade, I would like to see um, the United States be a leader in helping other countries uh, become alternate supply chains. We have seen the fact that we were getting, for financial reasons, a huge number of our supplies from one country in East Asia. It's led to all kinds of bottlenecks and changes. If we said, hey, Kenya, Nigeria, Thailand, Singapore, Venezuela, Trinidad, we're going to help you with airports, with infrastructure, with marrying you with corporate America, with supply chains, we'd be stronger and they would be stronger.
Is that is that how you would describe China's Belt and Road Initiative, kind of?
Yeah, and I'm not opposed to China's Belt and Road Initiative. I think it's a wonderful thing if if implemented properly. And what you see in Asia is you see some countries demanding quality from the Chinese. The Chinese can build things quality when they get it. In Africa, you don't see that because a lot of the leaders just take a bribe, frankly. Why not demand quality? Be better for your people in the long run. Look, the United States and China, we want to see a bipolar or unipolar world. We have anxiety about working together, but we should try to find ways in which we can work together. There will be plenty of areas which we cannot, but on the environment, on climate change, we should be able to work together uh, with Beijing on offering economics and trade, because a lot more people in Africa are going to Guangzhou to buy products than they are to Peoria today.
I'm going to pause the conversation and just encourage people on our Zoom right now to take a look at the chats, because people are sharing wonderful links with resources if you want to explore all sorts of wonderful things. So we're going to take a moment to let people look at this chat. So if you want to learn more, thank you for everyone for participating and sharing your experience and your resources. And Ambassador Thomas will be sure to make sure that you get all of these comments as well. I promise. Let's like end on a positive note.
Yes.
Which is something we all like to do, and maybe sometimes we forget to do when we're talking about big global challenges. What brings you hope about the U.S. Foreign Service?
The young people of the world. They're interconnected. They believe in each other. They want to get to know each other. They want to understand each other. And Ricky, in my last few months in Zimbabwe, Mugabe was going down. And there was a protest march in Harare. Our embassy is next to the Russian embassy. Russia was called an all-weather friend. America was called a fair-weather friend. Chinese embassy was across town. But as those Zimbabweans of all races marched past our embassy, you know what they shouted? They shouted, USA, USA. Brought me to tears. And why? Because we were standing for human rights. We were standing for gay rights. We were standing for labor rights. So when we do that, you'll get USA, USA. When we don't live up to our word, we will be cursed, and those people will remember it for hundreds of years because they don't forget the way we do. So things like that give me hope. The fact that we were able to save women's lives in the Philippines gives me hope. The fact that we were able to, when I was in Bangladesh, I was just there first couple of weeks, went to a program with the U.S. Navy band, and they said, we're going to play the most important song in Bangladesh. It's called Amra Kobo Joy. And every Bangladeshi knows Amra Kobo Joy. I didn't know Amra Kobo Joy. And then all of a sudden they go, wait a second, I do know that song. That song is We Shall Overcome. Big
Wow.
Valley. Again, I'm sorry, I was in tears. So I'm happy to end on that note.
You're bringing me to tears. um, Ambassador Thomas, thank you so much.
Thank you. God bless America, Georgia, and I really hope Georgia State students will join the Morehouse, Spelman, Clark, Atlanta students in taking the Foreign Service exam or finding ways to help our global community and our nation.
And on that note, I will encourage our audience to join our mailing list at wacatlanta.org because you can sign up for our newsletter. So we'll keep you posted on some upcoming programming that we have. We also have 2 more public events coming up. 1 week from today at this time, February 17th, you'll hear from Dr. Amy Zagard and her new book, Spies, Lies, and Algorithms. This is about weaknesses in U.S. intelligence. On Friday, March 4th, we will be hosting an in-person program with Estonia's ambassador to the U.S., Christian Preek. And we also have some members-only events coming up. Thursday, February 24th, we're hosting our President's Breakfast exclusively for Chairman Circle members, preferred members, and corporate members. And on Tuesday, February 22nd, our members forum is hosting MailChimp's director for international growth, discussing how a small Atlanta startup grew into an international powerhouse. Certainly a point of pride for the Atlanta startup scene is MailChimp. If you would like more information about being invited to our private members only events, click on the link in the chat now. Right after this, we're going to be having a private Zoom room with membership associate Anna Petrova and some other staff members, and we'll be happy to share with you your opportunities to join us. And for you young people, we do have a Young Leaders Program under 35, a great group of globally engaged early career professionals and students who want to have a community of support as you pursue your interest in international affairs. So thanks to today's behind the scenes team, Hannah Rennie, Interim Program Director, our graduate students from the Robinson College of Business and Andrew Young School of Policy Studies, both at Georgia State, our membership associate Anna Petrova and program associate Laura Brower. And for those of you who can stick around, we'll see you in the Zoom room shortly. Ambassador Thomas, we will see you when you come to Atlanta.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.